Welcome back to Motip. Tonight we uncover one of the most heartbreaking child abuse cases in Britain's modern history, the story of a little boy whose cries were ignored, whose pain went unseen, and whose short life ended in unimaginable tragedy. This is the haunting case of Daniel Pełka. Daniel was born on July 15, 2007 in Coventry, England, to Polish parents, Mariusz Krężołek and Magdalena Łuczak. He was a sweet and gentle child, quiet, shy, but full of warmth. Teachers later described him as polite, curious, and always grateful for the smallest kindness. But behind that gentle smile, a silent nightmare was unfolding. In 2005, Eric and Magdalena left Poland for the United Kingdom, hoping for a better life. Eric found work in construction while Magdalena stayed home to raise their children. But happiness did not last. Eric would later describe Magdalena as unstable, drinking heavily, unpredictable, and sometimes violent. By the end of 2008, he could no longer take it. He left the home, though he continued sending money and trying to contact his son. But Magdalena slowly cut him off. That distance would become fatal because Daniel lost the only person willing to protect him. In 2010, Magdalena met a man named Mariusz Krężołek, 33 years old, with a violent temper and a history of aggression. Within months, he moved into her small flat in Coventry. Neighbors began hearing shouting, arguments, and sometimes the sound of a child crying. What had once been a family home became a place of fear, and Daniel, barely 3 years old, became the target. In January 2011, Daniel was taken to A&E with a broken arm and bruises across his body. Social services were notified, but the attending doctor concluded that the injuries might have been caused by an accident. The investigation was closed. That single mistake would later haunt everyone involved. By the end of 2011, Daniel's teachers began noticing something disturbing. He had become obsessed with food. He stole lunches from classmates, snatched extra fruit from the classroom, and was even seen scavenging from rubbish bins. His mother told the teachers he had an eating disorder, but the truth was much darker. Daniel was being starved at home. His lunchbox often contained only half a ham sandwich and a few crisps. When the school gave him extra food, he ate as if it were his first meal in days. Over the following months, Daniel's condition worsened. His cheeks grew hollow, his arms became thin and fragile. One teacher saw fingerprint-shaped bruises on his neck, others noticed marks on his face and arms. He was seen by doctors, teachers, and welfare officers, yet somehow no one looked beyond the excuses. Each visit was another missed chance to save him. On March 1st, 2012, Daniel wet himself. A common accident for a 4-year-old, but to Mariusz it was an excuse to unleash his anger. He beat Daniel brutally, leaving him with devastating head injuries. The next morning, Magdalena searched online for care, patient in a coma, and salt poisoning. She knew her child was dying, but Mariusz forbade her from calling an ambulance, warning that it would cause proper problems. Daniel lay on the floor, silent and motionless. At 3 a.m. on March 3rd, Magdalena finally called emergency services. Her voice was calm as she said, "My son isn't breathing." Paramedics arrived to find Daniel unresponsive, pale, and covered in bruises. They fought to revive him, but it was too late. At 3:50 a.m., 4-year-old Daniel Pełka was pronounced dead. The autopsy revealed the full horror of what had happened. Daniel had 22 separate injuries, 10 of them to the head. He was severely underweight, weighing only 10 kilograms, less than half the healthy weight for his age. Doctors said he looked like a concentration camp victim, starved, beaten, and betrayed. The investigation revealed months of torture and starvation. Daniel had been locked in a room, forced to perform squats as punishment, nearly drowned in a bath of cold water, and sometimes force-fed salt. Text messages between his mother and her partner showed the cruelty in chilling detail. Magdalena had written that she had almost drowned Daniel herself and admitted they had removed his door handle so he couldn't escape. In July 2013, the trial began at Birmingham Crown Court. Both Magdalena Łuczak, age 27, and Mariusz Krężołek, age 33, denied murder but admitted child cruelty. During the trial, one of Daniel's siblings gave testimony describing how Mariusz would choke Daniel, lock him in a room, and refuse to let him eat. It was a house of torture disguised as a home. On August 2, 2013, both Magdalena and Mariusz were found guilty of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum of 30 years each. The judge described their acts as truly horrific and Daniel's starvation as unprecedented in this country. She said they carried out a deliberate and cynical deception, lying to teachers, doctors, and social workers to hide the abuse, but justice would not last long. On July 14, 2015, while serving her sentence at HM Prison Foston Hall, Magdalena Łuczak was found hanged in her cell. Less than a year later, on January 27, 2016, Mariusz Krężołek was found dead in his prison cell at HM Prison Full Sutton, reportedly from a heart attack. He had refused medical help out of fear that other prisoners would recognize him. Daniel's father, Daniel Pełka, took his son's body home to Poland for burial. He could barely afford the cost, but a Polish funeral home in London helped him. At the funeral, Eric stood beside his son's small white coffin and whispered, "I thought he was safe." His words broke hearts across the world. Daniel's murder sparked outrage throughout Britain. People demanded answers. How could a child be starved and beaten to death in plain sight? The tragedy forced a national review of child protection policies. Over £10,000 were donated to the NSPCC in Daniel's memory, and Coventry residents still hold annual vigils to remember him. Candles light up the night, flickering for the little boy who never had a chance. Daniel Pełka was only 4 years old, a boy who wanted food safety and love. Instead, he was betrayed by those who should have cared for him most. His story reminds us that evil doesn't always hide in the shadows. Sometimes it lives behind ordinary doors. This is Motip. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more true crime stories where tragedy and justice collide. Until next time, stay safe and take care.